Hello class, start from this lesson, we're going to move on to survival game. So we're going to have 4 lessons for this topic. Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to create the first level of the game and also the lighting. And you're going to download the project file from this link. So in this link, I already imported the standard assets from Unity Asset Store, and I fixed the issue in the script. Okay, so it's ready to use. As you open the project, in the scenes folder, you should see the sample scene, which is what I opened. And also you'll see standard assets folder, and underneath that, under character, first person character prefabs, you should see the first person controller. Alright, so let's go to our scenes, and we're going to right click and create a new scene, and I'm going to name it scene 1, 01. Okay, so scene 01, and double click to open. So now we are in our empty scene. So here we can go to game object and create a cube first, and then as you can see, the lighting is not good. It's kind of yellowish gray color. So I will go to window and rendering lighting, and down below here, generate lighting. Just click on that, and you're going to generate lighting and fix the lighting issue. Okay, so now it's normal. Alright, so the first step, we're going to import the model. So I have provided a link on Blackboard. First, let's drop in our city model. So we're going to use this as the base mesh for the first level. So we can go back here, select the assets, and create a new folder. And here we're going to name 01 model. So I put the 01 in front of the model is because later on we're going to import other assets and they may have the same name convention. So for the folders I created by myself, I just put a 01 in front of it. Alright, so I'm going to drop in the city model here. And these are the normal maps. You're going to see the normal map have some issues, so just fix them. And then I'm going to get into this folder. So here are the textures, and this is the model. So we can just drag and drop it in the scene. Here is it. But as you can see, it's super small. So this is a cube. If I select the cube, the scale is 111. So you can read 1 as 1 meter. So a human size would be 1.75 to 2. Okay, so that's to see this city definitely is too small. So I'm gonna select this whole group, and now try 100 XYZ, and let's see now. If I select this cube, and if I give it height as 1.75. So this will be a human height. So we can use it to compare the size of the city. And we'll select the city. Okay, so 100. And put a cube around the door. Okay, here's the door of the apartment. And let's see. Should be good. Okay, if a human stand here, 1.75 meters high should be here. Yeah, looks good. So we'll just keep 100 scale value. And as you can see, the scale, the texture is already on the model. Okay, it's because I have linked the texture and created the model, the materials for the model in Maya. Okay, so these are the materials from Maya. Okay, so for some reason, if the texture of the material doesn't show up here, just go down below here, and here are the material, and then you can just drag the material and drop it onto the buildings. Okay, then we're going to bring our character controller. So we're going to go to the first person character and drop in our first person controller and bring it in the center of the scene, and we can put a 0 for the y-axis. Here we go. So it's on the ground. So make sure it's above the ground. So here you can see that the castle, right? So make sure it's above the ground. Otherwise, it's going to fall through the ground. If I test play, you'll see that my player still falling through the ground. Okay, you'll see that. It's a little bit slow. You'll see that my character is still falling through the ground, even though I have placed it above the ground. The reason why this happens is because we haven't give a collider on the ground and all the models in the scene. Okay, so we'll go in the folder here, the city folder, and we'll select the floor, all of the 3 different floors and the wall. And here, inspector menu, we're going to type mesh and apply a mesh collider to it. So now, if I play, and you should see that the ground plane, the floor, is going to hold our character, and we can walk around in the scene. And the building, we haven't done the building yet. So for the building, it's a little bit different. Okay, so as you can see, here's a small triangle, right? So that is actually the folder, and inside the folder are the actual model. So this is in Maya, where the model is created, and as you can see here, right? These are the models, and this is just a folder that holds the model. Alright, so that's to say we have to go into the folder and select the model itself, and then we're going to apply mesh collider onto the model. Otherwise, the collider will not work. Okay, so we'll repeat this process to go into each folder of the building and add mesh collider for all of the buildings. Alright, once you have done, now your building should work. Okay, so test play. And you will see that the model is blocking me from getting into it. Okay, everything works. So now let's talk about the lighting. So we want this to be a survival game, a little bit kind of a horror feeling. And right now the lighting is kind of the daylight, is sometime in the afternoon, so it's not horror at all. So here you can select the directional light. Okay, press F key. Here's it. You can change the color if you want. So see, if I rotate in this direction and then give it kind of dark bluish color. Okay. And you can also change the intensity, for example, 2.3. Okay, however, you can see that the skybox is still showing in the daytime. So what you'll have to do is go to the first person controller, and here for the camera, this is the camera for the controller, and here the background, we're going to change it to solid color. See, this is how it looks from the camera, right? And for the background color, we're going to change it to pure black. Then let's go to the top menu window and rendering lighting. So here in the lighting, under environment, so we're going to change a few settings. So here for the source, we're going to change from skybox to color, and the ambient color, we're going to change it to pure black. And for the real-time shadow color, we'll also change it to black color. And the reflections, we don't want any reflections, so we can change the source to custom, so that'll be pure black. So now if you test apply the game, basically the directional light will be the only lighting source in the scene. As you can see right now, it's very dark. Okay, so if I change the directional light to about 4, and if I play, see? So basically the directional light will be the only lighting source. So later on, as we add the lights, the flashlights for our player, and we can also turn off the directional light. So the whole scene will be entirely black, and our player will have to use the flashlights or the lantern or other lighting source to illuminate the environment. So that will create a feel of horror. Okay, so let's temporarily check the direction light on, so we'll be able to see what's going on in the scene. Okay, so here intensity I temporarily put it at 4. Now we're going to create some flashlights for our character to use. So we're going to select our first-person controller, right-click, and create a light. So here we can create let's create a spotlight. Okay, so by default the direction will be, the front axis, which is the here. If I select the first-person controller, hit W key, the front axis is a blue, so the light will aim to the front. Okay, and we can move our first-person controller to, let's see, a little bit toward this side, so we can see how the light looks, on the building. Okay, so select the directional light you have created, and we can rename it to flashlight 1. Okay, and select this light. Oh, sorry, I renamed it the wrong light. So I'll select this spotlight and rename it to flashlight 1. And the range, you can make it longer so you can illuminate the building at here, right? So maybe about 45, 40. Okay, and intensity, let's try 2, right? And then let's hide our directional light. Okay, so now we only have the flashlight with for our player. So now if I play the game, and as my player walking the scene, as you can see, we could only see this specific area. Okay, if the buildings are far away, we couldn't see anything. Alright, so this will be our first flashlight. And if you want it to be more scary, you can lower down the range so your player could only see a specific range. Okay, maybe I'll just do 35. And then I'm going to duplicate this light. So for a duplicated light, I'm going to rename it to spotlight 2. Okay, and I'm going to change both of the light color to kind of orangish color, since this is a flashlight, right? Yellowish color. Okay, and for the second light, let's hide the first light. And for the second light, what I want to do is I want to shrink it down the area you can illuminate. So right now it has this area. I want to shrink it down the cone. So we'll have to go to spot angle. So by default it was 30. So I would do maybe 15. Okay. And as I shrink it down for the range, I can make it bigger. So here I can do it about 55. And intensity I can lower it down to maybe 1.6 or something. Let's test and see how it looks. So now with this light, as you can see, I can see farther, right? The building which is in the back, right? And then if I check the first flashlight and turn off the second light, and if I test play, as you can see, I'm not able to see the far side, the building in the far side. Okay, so that is the purpose. So we want the different light to have the different function. So maybe for the first light, I can even increase the spot angle. So by default it's a 30. Maybe I can do 40, and lower down the range a little bit more. So maybe 32. Okay, so now we have two lights, right? So we want to create a function that our player will be able to switch to the different lights. So if you go to the assets I provided, you should find this script. Okay, the switch lights script. So yeah, everything is correct. So if I go back to the assets here and I create a new folder, 01 script, and inside of this script folder, I'm going to just drag the script in here. Then we can select our first person controller and right click and create an empty. So for this empty object, we're going to say light controller. So we're going to use this empty object to hold all of the lights, and also we're going to apply this script onto it. So we'll be able to control our lights. So let's draw these two lights inside of the controller folder. If you select the light controller and under the script, you should see that here we have two objects we can assign. So for light 1, we can just drop the flashlight 1 to it, and here's the second light. Alright, so let's take a look at what we can do with the script. So if you hit play button, and by default it shows this light, right? So if I hit number 2 on my keyboard, and I can switch to this light, the second flashlight. 1 for the first light, 2 for the second light. Okay, so basically this script will allow you to switch between the different lights here you assigned. Okay, so let's take a look at the script. Okay, so here we declare two public objects, right? Game objects that we can assign. So by default, as the game starts, it will make the first light active. So first light set active as a 2, it's going to hide the second light. And then this function will happen when you update. When you update it, what you're going to update is if you have input, if you get key down, press down number 1 on your keyboard, it's going to make the first light active and second light as false. And when you hit 2, it's going to make second light active and first light deactivate. And if you press back, press 1, you're going to change it back to the initial state. So this is the initial state, and whenever you press 1, it will recall the initial state. So if you want, we can make the game more kind of hollow. So by default, in the default state, we can even make the first light as false. Set it deactivate, and make sure to go to the file and save your script. So in the beginning, you're going to hide both of the lights, and whenever you hit the key, you're going to show one of the light. So that way, in the beginning, you can put a sign or something, remind your player that you can use your flashlight to explore the environment. Okay, by hit the key 1 or 2. Okay, so now if I test play, as you can see in the beginning, it should hide all of the lights we have here, right? So if I press 1, you're going to open the first flashlight, 2 will open the second light. Okay, so our player can use these lights to explore the environment. Now, as you understand what the script can do, we can create more lights. Right? So here I can just duplicate the second light and rename it to light 3, and hide the first light and show the third light. So for the third light, as you can see, the range, it doesn't cover here the wall on the side, the edge of the map. Okay, so I can make the range even bigger. So right now it's only 55. I can put it 70, and I can lower down the cone, which is the angle. So for the angle, I can put it just about 5 or something. And range, let's try maybe 80, just to give it farther. Okay, and intensity maybe 0.2. Let's test and see how it looks. Oh, we have to disable the script. Otherwise, whenever you load the game, it's going to hide both of the lights, and so I'll disable the script for now. And this is how the light looks. So if you want to see an object that is far away from the player, and then you can use the third light. Okay, maybe we can make the intensity a little bit higher, so 0.8. test play again. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to change the intensity to about 2.5. So for this light, you're going to illuminate a long range, okay, and also the intensity is high. So if the player want to see something happening in the first side, you can switch to the third light, okay. And then if the player want to see the closer side, a bigger range, and then you can switch to the first light. Okay, so that's the function of the light. So now we can create a fourth light, and for the fourth light I would like to import a lantern so our player can hold the lantern and see the environment around the character. So it will be a very short range light, but it can illuminate the surroundings. So I'm going to go to the models folder and then go to the assets I provided and drop in the lantern. And you'll see the normal map has some issues, so we're going to just click on Fix Now and go to the lantern and select the first person controller and hit F key to zoom in. And then we can drop in the lantern in the scene and bring it inside of the light controller. And here we can zero out the values. So here we go. And we can place it in front of our character and hide the third light. Okay, so this is the lantern. And right now it's dark, it's purely black because we don't have any lighting source in the scene. So we can select the light controller and right click and go to the light, and we're going to create a point light. So here we go. So we can move it towards the lantern. Okay, and we can change the color to orangish color because this is a lantern, right? And let's see how far we can see. We can make it a range a little bit more. Wait, range, let's keep it at 10, but intensity, let's boost it up. So maybe about 2. Okay. And let's see how the model looks. For the lantern model, I'm not satisfied with the texture on the body. So let's see how we can fix it. Okay, so here we can just create a new material. And we can see lantern, glass. Here we can drop this material onto this part, okay, the lighting part, and then we can change the shader to legacy shader and self-illumination and diffuse. Okay, so it will be a self-illumination shader. As you can see, there's a low light source on it, but it is illuminated. Okay, and you can drop a texture on it, and because this area, the texture area, I made it yellow, so this color, this part will show yellow color. It also shows some textures on it. Okay, so that is our lantern, and then we can organize this a little bit. So maybe we can just drop this lantern underneath the point light. Okay, and then let's go to the game view. So we couldn't see the lantern, so we have to move it up, move it forward a little bit. Okay, and leftward like this. Okay, so now if I test play, and we should have a lantern on the corner, but as you can see, light, it doesn't move with my camera. So that is because all of our lights is outside of the the camera group. If I also hide this light, the fourth light, and if I show the first light, I should have the similar issue. Let me test. If I play, yeah, when I look down, the light doesn't follow my camera movement. So in that scenario, what I'm going to do is I will drop this light controller group under the camera of the first person controller. Okay, so now it should follow. And also, since the first person controller has a camera, we don't need this main camera, so we can just turn off it. Okay, so now if I test play, and you should see that the light will follow my camera movement. So now with the lantern, I can see the environment. Right? I can see the environment, but in a very short range. Now let's change the fourth light to, you can see flashlight 3, flashlight 4, or you can rename it lantern light or something else. No, I just keep the name convention as the same. And then we can modify our script a little bit, this script. So we're going to go to the script folder, double click to open it. Since now we have 4 lights, so we're going to duplicate this part here, and I'm going to clear 4 objects, 4 lights. And in the beginning stage, I'm going to make all of them disabled. Okay, all of them disabled. And then when I press 1, should I just copy this line? When I press 1, you're going to make the first light show up, and second, third, and fourth light all are disabled. Okay, here you're going to just copy this part. When I press 2, you're going to show the second light, and all other 3 lights are going to be disabled. So you can repeat this pattern by just copy this part. Okay, this if statement. So copy, paste it here. So now if you press 3, okay, and you're going to make the third light to be enabled, and the second light will be disabled, same as the first one and the fourth one. Okay, and I'm going to duplicate this part and paste it here. So now if you press 4, I'm going to make the third light disabled, and the fourth light are enabled. Okay, so make sure to save your script and double check, make sure there's no error. So you're going to take a few seconds to update the script. Alright, so now we can select our light controller and make sure enable this script. Okay, and assign the rest of the light to it. Okay, and now if I test to play the game, and by default it should hide this lantern. Right? And if I press 1, it's going to show the first light, 2, 3, 4. Okay, all lights work perfectly. Alright, so in the next lesson, we're going to create a second level, and we're going to start to add interactions.